Welcome to another episode of Truth in Cyber, where we cut through the noise, skip the spin, stop admiring the problem. This is where builders, breakers, and defenders come together to have an honest conversations about what's really happening in cybersecurity. No marketing hype, no fear tactics, just thoughtful discussions about the challenges we face and the opportunities to make security better. Our mission is simple: to tell the truth, help people, and make cybersecurity better. So, welcome. Today, we're going to tackle some of the most overused phrases in cybersecurity, security culture. We see that every organization says they have one. Every leader says security is everyone's responsibility. But when something goes wrong, accountability, sorry, can't talk today, often disappears. So our main question for our two, let them introduce themselves in a second. But so today we're asking, what does real security culture actually look like, and who truly owns it? So I'd like to welcome Matt Lee, Cyber Lee from Pax8. Or Matt, you can tell you a little bit more about yourself, and then Oscar Minks.
Yeah, I guess I'm a security nerd by definition. As an introduction, I come from the world that serves the small to mid-sized businesses, those 10, 20 attorney firms and small CPAs and bakers and corner shops. We're called managed service providers that serve those, right? And we serve that very low end of the pool. My background actually was being part of a small MSP that grew to 1 and 3 and 5 million, merged to be 20 some odd million, grew organically and through acquisition to 40 million in revenue, sold at 40 million, and then grew to 620 million, sold again. And so I was exited during that, but that's not my reason I'm here. My reason I'm here comes from failure. I was the director of security when we acquired a small company I call Voldemort, Michael. It is a small managed service provider in Eastern Texas that I will never ever say their real name again. And they cost us $3 million through the hands of Sodinokibi, our evil ransomware gang, by
Mm.
ransoming 1,200 endpoints of our customers' machines at with me in charge. So I'm a failure. Nice to meet you. Thanks for having
Yep.
me.
Yeah.
Hey
Thanks for
man, we've
joining
all
us.
failed. We've all failed. We've all had similar experiences. And if anybody tells you anything else, they're liars.
Yeah.
Good segue. I'm Oscar Minks, the president of FR Secure. I also sit on the board of directors here for Truth in Cyber. Happy to be back on the show. I don't know you need my full intro because I think I've done it a couple times before, but either way, Matt, really good to meet you. Kennedy, thanks for having me on again.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, you talk about failure. I had to do I did a talk once to a group of college kids as non-traditional talent entering into IT.
Sure.
And I was on a panel of the 40, 50-year-old white men who were traditional getting in IT. And I had to explain that I was non-traditional, that I started in IT in the mailroom. And
Hmm.
somebody came in and asked if anybody knew computers, and I raised my hand and I lied and I said I did. and and the audience loved that. And I said 6 months later, I was their network administrator. And then
Oh
off my
man.
my career took off from there. So it yeah, we all kind of get here in different ways. So
Some
I
of
did a
so
those
panel.
non-traditional thinkers too that I've been able to work with, had the honor to work with throughout my career, are some of the most amazing people as well. And I think that we
Yeah.
all get, if you are a traditional path to get here, you get there's some sort of like programmatic experience where we all
Sure.
think the
Yeah.
same,
yeah,
but those fresh perspectives are always so welcoming to me.
yeah.
So, Oscar, you and I have a connection we didn't make in the pre-room is that you were with FR Secure, and so is Evan Franzen. And we have a connection tangentially via Evan, quite likely, is
Nice.
the piece there. Yeah, so you guys do great work and help people get their CISSPs and all kinds of fun stuff, and generally a cool thought leader in the industry. So very
Yeah, I appreciate
nice to
that,
meet you.
Matt, and we all love Evan here. I'm sure he'll probably hear these kudos we're giving him, but
Well, then
let's
just
not do
tell him
it
I
too
think he's a
much. Yeah.
turd. He's not that amazing. Guy needs to step it down a bit. You know what I mean?
Just a little bit. I'll text him here in a second. But it's honestly the kind of what we were just talking about there, and a little bit with Evan and the CISSP stuff, and the FR secure culture, and kind of why we've been so close, Oscar and Evan as well, from our security culture is really, maybe Matt, what do you think of security culture? What is it? When you
Yeah.
when you hear that, what emotes for you?
I actually hear it as a bit of a mental model that we've made for ourselves or a construct. What I mean by that is like I have a guy named Ron who ran a concrete and road construction company and did most of the roads in one major Midwestern state. And I asked him one day, I said, Ron, how do you make money, man? He said, well, I have to get concrete to a road job every 30 minutes on a contiguous pour when the weather's right. And if I miss, I have to break it all up and do it again. And that's how I make profit. I said, okay, well, what happens if the truck's down? He said, well, I got extra trucks. What about if there's a lot of trucks down? He says, I got a shop. What happens if people call in? Well, I got more people. Do we define that as success culture? Do we define that as truck working culture? Do we define that as no, that's the will of the company, and the things and the steps that are necessary are the will of the company.
Right.
I think security culture is a trope we've made to define the fact that we aren't fucking solving that, if I'm really candid.
Right.
I think there's not enough budget. There's not enough willpower. We haven't done the things to make it easy for users to do the right thing and make it harder for them to do the wrong. We haven't owned it. I think to your point, you get into accountability. That's an aspect of this, of like even who owns it. I think security culture, I did a talk at RSA last year called When It's Somebody's Responsibility, It's Nobody's Responsibility. And it comes back to that security culture's way and saying, no, 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 this company will protect ourselves. No, bro, there's a dude that owns a shop and he's making sure that when a truck comes in, it exits at this SLA. And that's his job at that concrete manufacturing company. That's it.
Right.
And a
Right.
company has the willpower to make it happen. And I know I'm trivializing and I know I'm summarizing some things, but I would say, I personally, my hot take is I think security culture is a way for us to define something we haven't solved, and we say we can just culturally solve this. I don't know if I'm poo-pooing it on too much, but that's my
No,
hot take.
my brain always goes, and I actually have a lot of conversations about this too, where
Yeah.
like we know what culture is, right?
Yep.
But how do you measure culture, right? So definitively, culture is defined by the shared set of beliefs, values, traditions, behaviors, and symbols in a group of people.
Yep.
In what way is that measurable? And so that's something like for me, and in FR Secure, I'm here because this culture is amazing. That's one of the main things that brought me here, and our mission, right? And the ethics,
Sure.
the values, things like Michael's touched on before, but the culture is what keeps me here. But how do you define that? And I think about this all the time because I want to retain it, but I don't know how to measure it.
But is culture different than security culture, right? Because the culture is some
Yeah.
macro set defined of what we do, and security culture is this like I'm gonna
Yeah.
make sure I lock the door when I leave the house. Like that's what I feel. It's like a trivializing of that.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I think
Value
it's a
culture.
very, very small piece of what culture is, right?
I would agree
Right.
with that.
Yeah, because you're getting into like the measurable outcomes, right?
Mhm.
Because we're not measuring that. I mean, you can get into when you said it, it made me think about NPS scores. You can kind of get into the pulse surveys, where is everybody's heads at in a culture, but it
Sure.
doesn't still give you that gut feel or that joy you coming into. But then security culture, like to like your point, Matt, I think there's a couple aspects of it of you're creating an environment where it's okay to talk about security. But because I look at the way you were talking about the concrete stuff, those are the tools and the solutions that we need to implement. We need to do asset inventories. We need to have MFA. We need to do these basic things. We need to have patch management. We need to pay attention to that stuff. But I also get into where I think a lot of times that we blame our users, we blame our employees. They clicked on a link. Oh, these freaking idiots!
Yeah.
They clicked on another one.
Oh, don't
It's
get me
like
started.
or we poke at something or and so we can very quickly and easily get into this negativity culture inside an organization around security,
Yeah,
or
I would agree.
we can take the track of, we can I there's the leadership quality, that the shadow we cast. I always think
Yeah.
about that as a leader. How are we casting that shadow? But I really liked what you said
I,
about comparing it to a concrete
I
and
have more.
how
I have more
measurable.
on that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
go
So
ahead.
I'm
go
sorry,
ahead.
Oscar. Go if you were going
Oh,
to
I'm
jump.
just smiling. I want to hear more,
Okay.
man.
Yeah,
That was
yeah,
So
great.
for
I have
sure.
more on
Yeah.
this.
Yeah.
So well, now I've poo-pooed on culture, but at the same time, would anybody argue that a safety culture is not something that is talked about inside that organization? When my brother gets in that truck, He has
Yeah.
to think about OSHA. He has to think about, and I think to your point, there's a British woman that had a concept called social proof that's been somewhat largely debunked in its initial function. But social proof is this point, and she says, if I drop a human off that speaks the language but has no culture, no understanding, never been exposed to this world, they'll very quickly be in the same lunchrooms. They'll very quickly be at the same church. They'll very quickly be at the same. Why? Because they want to belong. We want to belong. I want to walk up to that fire and not have Oscar kick me out. I want to belong. Right. And so as a human, you innately want to belong. So if you focus on the negatives, you're going to say, oh, Johnny clicked on the phishing and he sucks.
Right.
Why would you not focus on, hey, 92% of you didn't click? And maybe where you're going with this about the humans is one of the things I think I'd like to disprove is we say humans suck. No, fuck, 99% of the time they get it right. Yeah, one time they fail, sure, it's because you set up a shitty ass system with limited capabilities of response, limited fucking discovery, allow them to use SMTP or I'm sorry, SMB over the internet and done stupid shit like that. And now you've technically set them up for failure the one time they fail. I disagree with the users are the worst, right? In the same point. And so I like to think of if you were going to try to use safety culture as a corollary, the corollary would be, I go 0 days since a major accident, 520 days since a major incident we had to bring in the team. Like, why not track the positives as business outcomes like you do a safety measure? Safety measure said, ain't no OSHA jackass come taking money away from me. I think that's the difference is we haven't had that same pressure to create that positive work environment to get an actual result. And so I would actually argue there are companies with safety cultures and companies that do not have a safety culture. And it's quite evident, but it is tied to, and I think Oscar made this point earlier, their underlying culture, because you can still have a shitty company with a good security culture, a good safety culture, right? Like Amazon people peeing in jars, right? Like, I'm sorry, am I going to get fired for the Amazon comment? But I digress.
They got electric vehicles now, so
you make a good point too. And we talk again about how security culture is one piece of an overall bigger picture here, right? And if you've got a shitty culture overall for your organization, why are people going to give a fuck about one piece of it? Because you say this is important now. Like, no, nobody's going to care.
Yeah. But even back to the safety corollary, if someone does cause safety problems in an organization, there's an accountable party.
Yeah.
It's going to be the safety party. It's going to be the HR team. It's going to be the executive. It's going to be in contracts. It's going to be in legal. You will fire people for it. And I'm not making that advocation, but I am saying that as you start building up that culture, there's a need potentially to trim that culture too and ensure that you are still, I mean, I've had people that when we were growing our organization, we let go because they were no longer a cultural fit and we didn't want it to change our culture. So when you start thinking about that, does that same extensibility apply? And I would argue it doesn't, which means security culture in my argument is still kind of fictitious as a point that it's not accountable. It's not responsible. Anyways, I'll shut up.
We've got a rule for that at FR Secure, Matt. It's called the no asshole rule. So if we, we hire you and we figure out you're an asshole 6 months later, sorry, bud, we got to go different ways.
It's intentional though, for real. I mean, it's intentional. And in some ways, probably you measure that in some not as easy to measure metric. I think is even a lower, like when somebody an asshole. Like you've got examples when someone was an asshole, but not an authoritative list of how someone can be an asshole. Right. Like there's lots of ways that not discovered yet.
Yeah, but a lot of that though is that the asshole doesn't fit back into the mission, vision, values of the organization. So it's
you mean it matters that you have that defined and that you're living it? This is blowing my mind right now, Michael Kennedy. This is blowing my mind.
That's right.
I digress.
So I mean, that's kind of the same with the security aspect, right? In the security culture. And I agree with you. I think it's difficult when organizations start to look at specific employees that they're clicking on phishing emails or they're doing something.
Now you need 3 demerits and you're going to be fired or something. Right. Like, I agree with you. That's horrible. That's hard.
Right. But at the same time, it's got to apply to the entire organization. It can't be your lowest level employees or, variety. If, the president clicks on a phishing email and does it 2 or 3 times and doesn't take his training, then it's got to be in HR. It's got to be across the board.
And pause. If that guy was going out on a ladder and then putting another board across it to the wall and then crossing that board and he was the president and he lost their ability to operate, he would summarily be fired by the board. So I think that's the difference in security. We've not gotten to the economic penalty that creates this. I think that's the reality of it. This is a capitalism problem, which is kind of part of your truthandcyber.org. I mean, this is part of that whole thing. This is a bit of a shared capitalism problem. But I digress. But yeah, I like the corollary. I love bouncing this ball around in my head. So I hope you all have had fun with this with me. But
yeah, for sure. So I guess one of the next things though is like when because you just talked a little bit about it, that if that executive did that, put together his own scaffolding equipment with a couple of 2x4s and a fake ladder. It's like,
So you got my picture, man. You got my
yeah,
picture.
yeah, I'm very visual. So how do we, where's the responsibility with the executive leadership and the board then, right? In the security aspect, how do we, because
Oh,
I mean, and we picked on Evan in the beginning, but until and it's I'll quote it horribly, but until there's accountability and pain, nothing's going to change.
Mhm.
yep.
And every time that these boards and these executives have something happen like SolarWinds and they go after the CISO,
Yep.
and it's the wrong person they're targeting. The
Yeah.
CISO's trying
Should
to
be targeting
create,
themselves.
right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So where does, I mean, I think we all kind of feel it, but where do you get that shift to start to change? How do you
Yeah.
do that?
And I know we're trying not to admire the problem, I think, to your direct
Yeah,
quote, right?
yeah.
We want
Right.
to talk about it, but I think there's health in admiring the problem to some extent. What I mean by that is I have a belief that there's a theory in capitalism I call the middle theory that says products and services don't rise much above the maturity of the consuming entity.
Mm,
Essentially saying demand creates function and outcome.
right.
So to analyze that, I like to look back at
Well,
like
okay,
older
let's,
versions.
I,
Yeah,
I want
sorry,
to, I want to
continue.
pause on that.
Go. Yep.
So demand creates function. Why do we have 1,000 fucking EDR solutions that are out there?
Okay.
Well, okay, maybe
Fair.
rephrase that. Why do we have 5 EDR solutions that are out there
Yeah.
and 995 that will call themselves
Because
EDR that are just stupid
I,
little
I'm going to
fucking,
take you there. In fact,
okay.
you are
All
jumping
right.
ahead of my
I'm
story.
sorry.
So just,
I'll
I mean,
back
no,
up.
no, just get out the popcorn. We're all going there because this is a
All right.
one-to-one. So I like looking at other examples of this.
Yeah.
The first car in human history with an internal combustion engine was done by Mercedes-Benz in 1896. There was, or Mercedes, I suppose. Benz, actually, it was just Benz. Don't get me wrong. I apologize. Fact check this for me. But the first seatbelt patent wasn't filed until 1950.
Mm,
It wasn't until 1965 when Ralph Nader wrote Unsafe at Any Speed that we started understanding these fucking auto manufacturers were just making whatever the hell the customer asked for. If they said I want it to look like a jet, they put spikes in the dash. And what sucks with that is when you stop real hard, spiky make penetrate wholly in
yeah.
chesty. Right. And so they were doing these types of things where the argument was that the industry itself had just enveloped out because of an unsuspecting buyer. And as a response, we had the National Motor Vehicle Safety Act of 1966 and the beginning of NHTSA and the formation of, wait, blinkers go on the left and the right, and I need a brake on each side, and they have to be of this style, and I got to be on this side of the road, and you got to be on that. All that really happened in a 100-year envelope after we started taking advantage of this in our human lives. It was
Sure.
only after this kind of escapement happened. And if you look at medicine over history, you went through a massive amount of space until, in fact, quite poignantly today, until the FDA was established to say Carter can't just sell pills. And to
Mm,
your point of now there's hundreds of car manufacturers aren't in business. There's lots of pill manufacturers that aren't in business. I'd put EDR closer to the other side. But the point is that the argument that comes in today is we're now trying to figure out in America where lettuce came from. Do you know that if you had done this a year ago, we knew exactly where every piece of lettuce originated that was in our system for the most part? There were internal systems that tracked that. That was defunded by our Doge friends, and we don't have it. And so now we're trying to go, where'd this lettuce come from, making people poop everywhere? And I'm being a little summative. My point is that I just think as an industry, we've only been around really. The first digital computer was 27. The
sure.
reality of our escapement really happened. The internet was born in 81, and we didn't have a national cybersecurity strategy until 2018 and 2021. In fact, I think I still own nattystrategy.com, which I think Evan shit all over. And I actually bought it when he got mad about that. So I think I own nattystrategy.com because of Evan. But the point is like, I'm trying to posit that as humans, we go through this cycle and that at some point we start regulating, whether it be self-regulatory models or
Right.
other
Right.
types of space. And so going back to your EDR question, we built a product that is so bad that we have to build external tool sets to fix it, has tons of stuff on its won't fix list, has trash as code. Why? Because nobody's demanding it be better.
Right.
Until we start doing what you're doing in Truth and Cyber, come with a common language, and I'll come back to my how do we measure it, which is what matters to this question. It is really standards, man. Like in a car with NHTSA, you literally had to put this square light from 1970 through 1992, and external car manufacturers had to put the same square light in because it's what America made it as a barrier to entry to sell in our capitalistic environment so people didn't hit each other on the road. We haven't done that with cyber. So if you build code and you're a product manager and you get a request of do I make this new feature that I can put out that'll get me 1,500 more signups, or do I fix this stupid bug Oscar's been telling me about for 2 days? This one never happens because capitalism doesn't reward it.
Right.
And anyways, I'll shut up. But that's my salvo: is that this is a 100-year problem, of which we are in 80 something years in to this 100-year problem, almost 100. Anyways.
So a question here, thinking about those examples, that was a lot, Matt. I like talking to you, man.
Yeah, for sure.
So again, is this a regulatory thing? Because you're talking about regulations that were in place to make the roads more safety.
Oh shit!
And like, if we ever want to talk
That's
about
sticky,
regulations,
mate.
cyber, to your point, we didn't even have a strategy on this until recent memory. It shows me that people making those regulations, making those laws, have no fucking clue what they're
They
doing
have no
anyway. So is that
fucking
the
clue.
solution? I don't know that it is.
All right. Okay. So this is I have an hour-long version of this I've done on another podcast in y'all's space. But the thing that I think of here is self-regulatory. I like to go to a model of anytime you have a fast-moving, highly professional body of knowledge, there's no way regulators will keep up with that. Right. In fact, I got the pleasure of speaking to the Homeland Security Committee, Ron Paul's staffers. And they were asking some questions similar to this. And they asked about MSPs in my space. And they said, Matt, how do the MSPs deal with the regulation they have right now? And I was like, did you do any research? Did you do one Claude search, friend? Because they have none right now.
Yeah.
So like
Yeah.
they don't deal with it because there is none. I don't know if I believe in regulation. I personally, my life mission, this is literally why I do what I do every day, is that at some point there'll be a self-regulatory model for those in our field. If I'm a doctor, there's an ability to take a morbidity and mortality clinic and get me out of being a doctor because I'm not following practicing standards. As an attorney, I can be Saul Goodman and I'm just above the bar. I'm a shitty attorney, but I'm better than those other guys. And we don't have that in our field. So in my mind, a model that I would probably think works would be FINRA and the SEC. The SEC obviously is your government body, and FINRA is the self-regulatory organization that manages those that hold a Series 7 or a 66 or things that can sell securities, or a 6 or any of those certificates that allow you to sell securities. And they define broker-dealers, they define brokers, and they define RIAs. And actually RIA falls under regulation of the state, potentially extensively into the SEC directly. But the point I'm making is, imagine you now say, I'm a broker. My job is to go get hung my shingle with a broker dealer. That broker dealer's job is to tell me when I do bad stuff, like steal from grandma or move it to a product that's not right, or break some rules, things of that nature, or do something to violate my license. That's their job. And my job is to tell on them when they give me undue pressure to do bad shit to grandma. That's my job as a broker. Right. And so if you put that in the context of a business and said, now what about these RAs? Well, now there's this registered investment advisor that has to do both. They've got to both be the compliance for themselves, as well as, and they have to establish separations of duties, capacitance, or external partnerships to accomplish those things. They're trying to replicate both. Well, now put yourself in the small business world. Remember, that's my lens and paradigm. So now if I am a broker or dealer, then I'm probably an MSP or a service provider like you. I'm going to hire people that have some licensure, some format of measurement that they aren't going to kill you on the operating table. Not like they're great doctors, like that comes from stats and long term, but like they know what like drugs are and post-surgical doses of antibiotics and those type of things. And so that'd be your broker. That would be like your employees, Michael, the people that work for you to bring capabilities to companies. But what if a company hired an internal Michael and they did it all themselves? Great. Then they have to set up the tensions and possibilities of whistleblowing and calling to action and holding the standards that both hold each other in a natural tension. And people might argue, and Oscar, I'll hand this back to you, that like, well, how does capitalism support it? I still buy a car every day. And there are hundreds of people that don't make a car in their garage anymore. And I know that's a little summative and maybe a little flippant, but I think we always go through this and fix it.
Yeah, but even if you build the car in your garage, you still have some standards you have to you want to put it on the road.
Sure.
You got to go
Amen.
register it.
There's capital involved.
No.
I don't know, Oscar. The good news is it's a 50-year mission, and I'm probably only got 20 more years in me. So like, I'm gonna let somebody else shape up that last quarter mile.
No, that's the point. None of us really know what the solution is right now, but we're trying. I think that's the point of this conversation. That's why we're all here today, because we all get that and we want to find a better place. We don't know how to get there.
Yeah.
If you did it with that truck maintenance, and the owner of that company killed driver after driver or destroyed economic interest of investors, we would never tolerate it.
We'd have a class action. We'd have recalls. Instead, we have data breaches. We did a podcast.
Lies.
We did
5 patches shipped for the same thing.
We did another chat recently, and it was talking about that that industry, the breach industry or the breach notification industry is a $6 billion a year industry.
Oh, I believe it.
Just to have your data lost, and then Equifax send you an email and a letter saying you get it, their
Isn't that
services
nuts?
free for a year. That's a $6 billion, and they expect it to, I think they grew to like maybe
Oh.
15 or 16 billion
Yeah.
in the next couple of years, just breach notifications.
Mhm.
So I agree.
Well, you want a topic for another show? Is breach notification even the thing anymore when my data's already been
Yeah.
breached 100 ways from
Yeah.
Sunday? Is that not the measuring stick now? Is it more operational value and
Right.
other things? But I digress. That's a dumb statement. So make fun of me in the comments.
No,
No,
it's
no,
not.
no.
I think we all share the same sentiment there. Whenever I get a letter in the mail, it's like, yeah, no shit, thanks. It was already gone.
Yeah.
So I guess the three of us agree, and our listeners would probably agree as well. But the three of us agree that this is fucked. So what when we kind of touched on it, you touched on a little bit what we're trying to do. I go out and I try to preach a lot of the same stuff, the same, treat your users right, listen to them.
Sure.
We all talk about doing the asset inventory, do proper security stuff, question
Yep.
your vendors, don't trust, validate. There's that whole mantra that the MSPs had about 15 years ago, that where there's mystery, there's margin, trying to
Yeah.
hide, right? And so,
Oh God, I died a little inside, man. Like I've
yep.
heard that legitimately.
in cyber,
Oh.
it's very similar. But I
Oh.
guess what advice or tips or ideas would you have for CEOs or other leadership that's trying to fix this, trying to create a culture or build something around this?
Don't be the president that's putting the board from the ladder to the wall. I mean, and you hear me say this a lot, Michael. It's just, if you don't give a shit and you're not acting on the things that you want your employees to act upon, they're never going to act upon those same things as well. And maybe it's a little cliche, but it all does start with leadership. And if you
Yeah,
actually
100%.
care, your employees can see you caring, and they understand when you're trying to enforce this to them, it's because you care and you're walking in these shoes every single day with them. You get a lot better chance of people buying in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Being a standards guy, I do a lot with CIS. I do a lot with Trustmark and a bunch of other standards. And I'll take it kind of back to an emergence in standards that's hit recently. If you remember, NIST CSF 2.0 added govern. So did CIS 8.1. We added govern in August of 2024, or was it 2025? It might have been. That's 4. But those only became emergent words. I mean, yeah, enterprises have used the term govern before, right? Like, but the reality is, what is governance? Anybody got an idea what I'll give my definition. What do y'all think governance is? Like, anybody got a simple answer for what is governance? Not to put you on the spot, but
Accountability.
yeah, that's a good way to say it. What else, Oscar? What's governance?
Yeah, my mind goes to accountability as well. If I'm trying to give a full definition, I don't have it for you right now.
I'll give you a
Oversight.
simple one.
Yeah.
It's the will of a company enacted.
Mhm.
When Ron decided he was going to get a truck to that job site every 30 minutes, by God, that was the will of the company. And all the little decisions and all the other things came from that will being established, enforced, supported, and guided. And that's govern got added, in my opinion, to speak towards that problem, that gap. And you have some questions in the Run show sheet to talk about, like, conversations around governance and around the security and compliance. Are they the same, or do they cause problems? They're all words trying to decide to define the fact that nobody gives a shit in the top. So, Oscar, I say all them words to say, I'm with you. It starts with leadership. If you are a leader, find a standard. Live that standard. If you want to talk about security, what is security? What is that abstract security word? I walked into an engineering airlift at Microsoft a couple of years ago, right when AI came out, and they were like, data security, data security, data security, data security, as if everybody just figured out data was the thing we was talking about. Y'all know that. Data matters, y'all. It's crazy. So, I think governance starts at leadership. And if you pick a standard, you execute that standard in a way that's meant to be security, not compliance, meaning you live it, you think about it at a broad level, you think about a deep level, you think about it as encompassing as it can be. You'll find that itself develops a security culture in the way you want to define it, just like having trucks show up every 30 minutes and dump concrete establish a success culture for my concrete boy, right? Like, I think it's just correlative to what you want.
It reminds me of the story. Pinky, who is, my instant response team manager over here. And we saw this organization where if you reported a phishing email or you reported a potential security incident, you got a candy bar. Like you had a
Yeah.
box of
Yeah.
candy bars. And
100%.
so like what were they doing? They were encouraging people to be honest, understanding this isn't, we're not trying to monger fear. We all
That's
make
amazing.
mistakes. It's not a big deal. We want to reward you. Even though you made a mistake, I'm rewarding you for sharing that you made that mistake with me so we can prevent further outcomes from this situation that we're in. I think that's another important thing too. We were talking about before, like, yeah, don't be the president that puts the ladder on the board on the ladder to cross the wall or
Right.
whatever. But
Yeah.
when you do it once, we understand that was a dumb thing to do, but we're not doing it again.
Show me
Okay.
you
Right.
learn from it. That
Yeah,
you're
show me
humble.
you learn
Yeah.
from it and instill that same culture. Like it's okay to fuck up. We all make mistakes. We've all been victims, whether we want to admit
Yeah.
it or not. So
100%.
trying to treat someone as if this is a disciplinary action because you made a mistake, you're
Yeah.
not creating a positive culture where anybody's going to be honest or share anything with you. They're going to sweep that shit right in the rug. 2 weeks
Yeah.
later, you're fully encrypted because everybody was too afraid to tell you something happened.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
so
that's
tactically valuable. I wanted to
yeah.
add something. I did a talk for Fortune 100 and 500 CISOs at a thing. And one of the things that came after was a guy said, well, Matt, how do you find value if phishing testing isn't valuable? How do you prove phishing training is working? I said, all right, what about this? How many times does someone report to you a false positive or a
Mhm.
real positive? Measure
Right.
that, like reward that. I think
Yep.
to your point, that's why when you said the chocolate bar, it
Yeah.
triggered me a little because that's somebody actually doing that in action. That's wonderful.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
give them a reward for the faults and track that. Now you know that you've made an impact because they're starting to report suspicious looking crap.
Right.
Yeah, we've started doing that even at FR. Like, once a quarter, here's who reported the most phishing emails. And it's the sales guys. And that makes me so happy. It's not even our security
That
team.
is
It's usually
awesome.
someone from the sales team. The people that are
That's
most
awesome.
likely to be susceptible now because we've trained them, we've encouraged them. They're the ones like, hey, I don't know, but could you look at this for me? It might be bad. And most of the
Right.
time
You
it's a
might,
false positive. That's
Right.
fine.
you might call that evidence of a
Yeah.
security culture.
Yeah, it could be. It could be.
That's right. Well, and we see that with our clients too, right? Trying to get them to, because we do we manage a email phishing security platform for them, and so we get them to send us emails and phishing. Is this a phishing campaign or whatever? And where through some of our own faults, we do follow up questions. Well, did you click on anything in that email?
Yeah.
And then it was like, well, yeah, I did. Okay. Well, let's let the SOC take care of some stuff for you right now. We're gonna go do some hunting. And so, but to have that environment where they're able to report it, they know somebody's got it. We're not chastising them, we're not beating them up. We're like, okay, what do we do? Let's go hunt. We're here with you. But it's always, we always want to show up as that extra. Because I think I've been in IT for a long time. I've been in IT almost 30 years now. So I'm a product of the .coms, from that mailroom moment,
Sure.
to
Sure.
today. And, where, a lot of times it's, users are stupid. We have I.10 problem between keyboard and chair, all of this
Yeah.
stuff, all this executive clicked on something, blah, blah, blah. But we have to, what I've noticed in my career in the last 10 years is the shift in the mentality of they're my canary. When they're coming to me and telling me I got this email phishing campaign, when that salesperson says, then I know there's a broader campaign going on across the company, and then
Yeah.
we can remediate that stuff, or we can identify and solve faster.
Yeah.
So
And to your point, Michael, you've been in this a long time, but for someone that hasn't, let's say you're looking at a security professional finding themselves there in a mid-market. When I talked about standards, I like to do this exercise with enterprise security humans of looking at modern breaches and trying to determine where CIS controls failed,
yeah,
right? Where you now go, okay, what probably failed? Well, when you just talked about doing the phishing testing, not only are you doing phishing testing, but you're also providing some portion of 17.3. 17.3 says to establish and maintain an enterprise process for reporting incidents. That is how
Mhm.
one would report a phishing incident to you. And so my point is, if you're a security professional looking for how do I accomplish this, go see how well you can do the Center for Internet Security Critical Controls or NIST CSF or SMB 1001 or Essential 8 or CAF or NCSC, or like just pick them. It doesn't,
Right.
find one and try to do it not like you're getting measured on it, but
Right.
looking like you're trying to deal with the safety of your organization, and just like delivering concrete to the job every 30 minutes. Approach it
Right.
that way and you'll have a security culture, in my opinion.
Correct. Any we're getting run out of time here. Any last closing comments felt like that one was a good one to go with.
That was great. Yeah. You guys want to hear a funny story from when I thought my bulldog hacked me a couple weeks ago? I thought I was hacked and it was my bulldog a couple weeks ago. Did I tell you this,
is
Michael?
awesome. I need to know this story. No, this is
Yeah,
great.
we'll just share something lighthearted, not really related, except for the fact that I was this close to self-reporting something's going on. So I'm down here working at my desk, and suddenly, like my mouse just kind of freaks out, on screen. I'm in a meeting, my mouse just starts jamming all over the place, very random. It wasn't really clicking anything. I'm like, what's going on here? So I inspect my mouse. It's old, it's dirty. Like, let me clean my desk, let me clean the mouse. That doesn't happen.
I already
I'm
know
like,
what happened
okay.
to you.
I'm
You
sure
keep
you
going,
do.
but I already know
Yeah.
because I had this.
So then the next morning, about the same time, give or take, 20, 30 minutes, I'm downstairs. My mouse goes bananas again. And I'm like,
Yeah.
what the fuck is happening here? Let me call up Brett. We're going to have to start something going here
Yeah,
on my
sure.
machine. I'm going to self-report something's happening here. And so I hear my bulldog right here. So my wife's office is directly above my bed where I keep my backpack.
Where
I
your
also
extra
have
mouse is. This
where my
Bluetooth.
extra mouse is. Yeah. And I go up there, and sure enough, she's like chewing on not my mouse, but the bag where my mouse is, dragging it around. I'm like, oh, this is fantastic. I just
All
got
right.
pwned by my bulldog.
I'm going to tell on myself. I did it to myself, no bulldog involved.
Yeah.
I actually have just done this. I reported it to my MDR team, self-reported on this because I thought I had something going on with my Mac.
Yeah.
Same thing. But my problem was like I'd click and it would never let go of the click. And I'm like, man, something's going on. I can't click
Yeah.
right. I can't use my right click. It's all messed up. It was my mouse in my backpack, and every time I turned my backpack a certain way, it pressed on this mouse that was turned on, and it held a button down, so I get stuck. I thought for sure I was pwned.
Yeah.
But no, it was definitely just a Bluetooth mouse that pwned me at that point.
So
I was this close though to calling my dude and saying, hey, I want to send you my laptop. Let's get to work. I don't know what's going on.
That's funny. I in the office today and I lost internet connectivity, and all of a sudden my iCloud stuff popped up, and it said we're having iCloud issues. Please enter your password.
Oh,
So I
yeah,
go
first
and
trigger.
I get my 16, and I go in and I put it in, and it's just spinning. And I'm working along, I'm Teamsing people. I think I'm good. iCloud spinning, and I'm thinking shit. So I go to my phone. I'm logged into my phone, and then but in somewhere, I open up ping prompt, and I no internet connection. So
You're like, okay, this makes more
Okay.
sense. This
Right.
wasn't somebody capturing my
Right.
creds and leaving me to dump off to 1270001.
yep, correct.
I think there's a Colin Powell misquote that I'm going to give here that goes to this, right? Which is like, you can't make decisions if you have less than X percentage, which is like 20 or 30, I think it was. And you can't make decisions if you have more than 70, 80% of the knowledge, right? Because you're paralyzed with the knowledge. This is one of those paralyzed with the knowledge where nobody else would think that.
Right,
You and I
right.
go, they just got me.
Yeah.
Yep.
Some bitches just got me. That's right.
I got owned. All right. Well, thanks you guys both for joining me today, having our podcast. And then, until next time, tell the truth, help people, make cybersecurity better, and as our favorite, stop admiring the problem. Thanks again, everyone.
Yeah. Thanks, Michael.